The ship landed with a soft thud on the white marble platform, looked out the window and saw the Galactic Academy of Martial Arts for the first time. The buildings were taller than any he had seen before. They touched the clouds. Golden light came from every window. Strange flying machines moved between the towers like metal birds. Picked up his old bag and stepped off the ship. He was 17 years old. He had dark hair that fell over his eyes and a thin body that showed he had known hunger many times. On his back, wrapped in dirty cloth, was his only valuable thing, a sword. It had belonged to his family for 400 years. The other students on the platform stopped talking when they saw him. They were not human. Some were tall creatures with silver skin and 4 arms. Some were thin and fast with scales that changed color. Others were floating slightly above the ground, their eyes glowing with mental power. A girl pointed at and laughed. "Look, a human, did it get lost?" Her friends laughed too, said nothing. He had heard worse. On his colony world, humans were treated like animals. He was used to being hated. He walked to the main building and found the registration office. A machine scanned his acceptance letter and made a strange sound. The clerk floated over and looked at the screen. "This must be wrong," the clerk said. "Humans cannot attend this academy." "The letter is real," said quietly. "I passed the written test." "The written test is for species with basic intelligence. It does not mean." "The letter is real," repeated. "Your charter says anyone with a valid letter must be allowed to stay." The clerk's eyes glowed brighter, felt pressure in his head. That was trying to read his mind to find fear or weakness, but had grown up in the outer colonies. He had watched his parents die when pirates attacked his settlement. He had survived alone in the wilderness for 2 years before a rescue ship found him. He had already faced the worst things life could offer. The found nothing but cold determination. The pressure stopped. "Wait here," the clerk said and floated away. Waited for 3 hours. Other students came and went. They all received rooms in the tall towers with beautiful views. They received new uniforms and training weapons. They received welcome packets with maps and schedules. Finally, an old walked into the room. He was different from the young ones outside. His silver skin had turned gray with age. His 4 arms moved slowly, but his eyes were sharp and intelligent. "I am headmaster," the old alien said. "You are the human." "My name is—" "I know your name. I also know you should not be here, but our charter is clear. I cannot turn you away." Handed him a small card. "This is your room assignment. You will be in the basement dormitory. You will be in class 0. You will receive no special help. If you fail, you leave. Do you understand?" "Yes." "Good, now go." Took the card and walked out. He found his way to the basement using the map on the card. The hallway was dark and cold. Water dripped from pipes on the ceiling. His room was small, with a hard bed and no window. The training equipment left for him was broken and old. He sat on the bed and unwrapped his sword. The blade was simple steel, not the fancy plasma weapons the other students carried. But it was sharp, and it was his. There was a knock on the door. Stood quickly, his hand on his sword. "Come in." The door opened. A woman stood there. She was beautiful, with features that were half human and half. Her scales shimmered green and gold in the dim light. "I am Lady," she said. "I will be your only instructor." "You are human." "Half human. My mother was from Earth. My father was." She stepped into the room and looked around with sad eyes. "They gave you the worst room in the academy." "I have slept in worse places." Smiled slightly. "I believe you. I read your file. The colony attack. The years alone. The rescue. You have already survived more than most of these students will ever face." "Then why am I in the lowest class?" "Because you are human. Because they want you to fail and leave. Because they are afraid of what it would mean if you succeeded." She moved closer and looked at his sword. "May I?" Handed her the blade. She held it carefully, testing its weight and balance. "This is Earth steel," she said softly. "Old and strong, like the humans who made it. It was my grandmother's grandmother's sword. Return the blade. They will try to break you, the students, the teachers, the system itself. They will make you feel small and worthless. They will tell you that humans cannot fight, cannot learn, cannot win. They will push you until you want to quit. I will not quit. Good, because I believe humans belong here. I believe your species has something special, something the elder races have forgotten." She walked to the door and looked back at him. "Training begins tomorrow at sunrise. Do not be late." She left, sat back on his hard bed and looked at his sword. Outside his tiny room, he could hear the elder races laughing and talking. They did not know he was there. They did not care. But they would learn. He would make them learn. The sun rose red over the academy, stood in the training yard, his sword at his side. Around him, 500 students prepared for the entrance trials. They stretched their alien bodies. They practiced with their expensive weapons. They laughed with their friends. Stood alone. Lady appeared beside him. "There are 3 trials today: combat, endurance, will. You must pass all 3 to stay at the academy. What happens if I fail? You go home, or whatever place humans call home these days." Nodded. He had no home to return to. The colony where he grew up was gone. His family was dead. This academy was his only chance at a real life. The first trial was combat. Students were matched against each other in one-on-one fights. The matches were random, chosen by a computer. Once name appeared on the screen, the crowd went quiet. His opponent was a female named. She was famous at the academy, the fastest student in her year. She had never lost a match. Walked into the fighting circle and looked at with disgust. "They matched me with the human. This is an insult." Said nothing. He drew his old steel sword. Laughed. "What is that? A museum piece. My blade can cut through starship armor." She activated her weapon. The edge glowed with blue plasma light. The judge, aboard, raised his hand. "The match will end when one fighter yields or cannot continue. Begin." Vanished. They were the fastest species in the galaxy. They could move so quickly that normal eyes could not follow them. 2. She simply disappeared from one spot and appeared in another. Her blade came toward his neck, but did not try to block. He did not try to dodge. Instead, he stepped forward into the attack. This made no sense to. Every fighter in the galaxy tried to avoid her speed. No one ran toward it. Her brain took half a second to understand what was happening. Half a second was enough. Sword moved in a simple arc, not fast, not fancy, just a basic cut that his grandmother had taught him when he was 5 years old. The blade caught his wrist guard and knocked her arm aside. At the same time, his foot hooked behind her ankle. She fell. Before she could recover, the sword was at her throat. The crowd was silent, completely silent. 500 students and 50 teachers stared at the impossible scene. A human had defeated the fastest student in the academy. In 2 seconds. "Yield," said. Scales turned red with shame, but she nodded. Stepped back and sheathed his sword. He walked out of the circle without looking at anyone. Behind him, the whispers began. The second trial was endurance. Students had to run around the academy's outer wall until they collapsed. The wall was 10 kilometers long. Most students completed 20 or 30 laps before falling. Started running. The students were strong. Their forearms helped them balance. Their large lungs held more air. They led the race for the first 50 laps. But then something strange happened. They began to slow. Their bodies, designed for explosive power, could not handle long effort. One by one, they fell to the ground, exhausted. They were next. They were fast, but they burned energy quickly. After 60 laps, they were all gone. They used their mental powers to float instead of run. But even mental power had limits. At 70 laps, they dropped from the air. Kept running. His legs hurt, his lungs burned, his heart pounded like a drum, but he did not stop. He could not stop. On his colony world, stopping meant death. When the pirates came, you ran until you were safe or you died. There was no third choice. 80 laps, 90, 100. The teachers began to watch with real interest. Lady stood at the finish line, her eyes wide. Ran for 19 hours, 114 laps. When he finally stopped, his legs gave out and he fell to the ground. But he did not collapse from exhaustion. He stopped because the judges told him the trial was over. He had run longer than any student in academy history. The third trial was will. Students entered a psychic maze created by elders. The maze showed your worst fears, your deepest shames, your most painful memories. Most students escaped in a few minutes using their natural mental shields. Had no mental shields. He was human. His mind was open and unprotected. He entered the maze and disappeared. One day passed, then two. The teachers began to worry. No student had ever been trapped so long. Some said they should pull him out. Others said the human had finally failed. On the third day, walked out of the maze. He was thin, dehydrated. His eyes were empty and tired, but he was standing. The examiner floated over to him. She was very old, with pale skin and eyes that had seen 10,000 students. Your mind should have shattered, she said. The maze showed you things that would break any normal person. How did you survive? Looked at her. When he spoke, his voice was rough and dry. Your maze showed me my parents dying. It showed me alone in the wilderness, starving and scared. It showed me the faces of everyone who called me worthless. He paused. But those things already happened to me. I already lived through them once. Your illusions were just memories, and I have been carrying those memories for years. He walked past her toward his basement room. Memories cannot kill me, he said. I will not let them. The results were posted that evening. Was ranked last in his class. His combat score was low because he only had one match. His endurance score was discounted because humans were naturally suited for running. His will score was marked incomplete. But he had passed. He was officially a student of the Galactic Academy of Martial Arts. In his small room, sat on his bed and held his sword. His body hurt everywhere. His mind was tired from the maze, but for the first time in years he smiled. He belonged here, and soon everyone would know it. 3 months passed at the academy, trained every day from sunrise to midnight. He was not allowed in the regular classes, so he trained alone. He ran laps around the outer wall. He practiced sword forms in his tiny room. He studied old books in the forgotten sections of the library. Lady taught him in secret. Late at night, when the other teachers were sleeping, she came to the basement and showed him techniques from 100 different worlds. Your body is weak compared to the elder races, she said one night. But your mind is flexible. You can learn any style, adapt any technique. This is the human gift. She taught him the flowing movements of the powerful strikes of the mental focus of absorbed everything like a sponge takes in water. One evening, a girl appeared at his door. She was human, with long black hair and sad eyes. But when she spoke, her voice had a strange echo, like two people talking at once. I am, she said. I heard about you, the human who passed the trials. You are human too. My body is, my mind is. She stepped into his room and sat on the floor. I was born on a colony world, but a family adopted me when I was a baby. They raised me, trained me, made me one of them, but I am still human in their eyes, still lesser. Then we are the same. Smiled, it was a small, tired smile. I want to help you. I can teach you mental techniques, how to protect your thoughts, how to focus your will. In return, you can teach me to fight like a human. I do not know how to fight like a human. Yes, you do, you just do not know you know. She stood and looked at his sword. There are old books in the library, books about Earth warriors, Samurai, knights, Spartans. They fought without alien technology. They fought with nothing but steel and heart. I have been reading about them. I think their ways could work here. From that night on, and studied together. They found ancient texts about Earth martial arts. They read about warriors who faced impossible odds and won. They adapted these techniques for galactic combat, mixing old wisdom with new technology. Slowly, things began to change. Started winning practice matches, first against weak students, then against average ones, then against some of the better fighters in the middle ranks. The other students noticed. Some began to respect him quietly. A boy named Taro nodded at him in the hallway, and a girl named Sora saved him a seat in the cafeteria. Small things, but they mattered. However, not everyone was happy. Prince had watched rise with growing anger. Was the son of a powerful Federation senator. He was tall and strong, even for a. He had trained with the finest masters since he was a child. He expected to be the best student in the academy. The idea that a human might challenge his position made him furious. One afternoon, cornered in an empty training hall, he was not alone. 4 other nobles stood behind him. Human said, "You have been making trouble." Looked at the 5 aliens. They were all bigger than him, all stronger, all armed with expensive weapons. "I have been training," he said calmly. "That is what students do. You have been embarrassing your betters. You defeated students who should have crushed you. You make us look weak." If they lost to me, perhaps they were weak. His eyes flashed with rage. "You dare speak to me like that? My family has ruled star systems for 10,000 years. Your species was living in caves when mine was building empires. And yet here we are, both students, both equal under academy law." Moved fast. His fist crashed into his chest and sent him flying across the room, hit the wall hard and fell to the floor. "We are not equal," said. "We will never be equal, and today you will learn your place." The 5 attacked at once, drew his sword and fought. He was outnumbered. He was outmatched in strength. Their weapons were better than his, but he had something they did not expect. He had spent his childhood fighting for survival. He had faced pirates and predators and starvation. He had learned that in a real fight there were no rules. He moved between them like water. He used their size against them. When one swung at him, he ducked and let the blow hit another. When 2 attacked together, he stepped aside and let them crash into each other. His old sword sang through the air. He did not aim to kill. He aimed to disable. A cut to the knee, a strike to the hand, a slash across the arm. 20 minutes later, Lady found him. 5 nobles lay on the ground, bleeding and unconscious. Stood in the center of the room, his sword dripping with their blood. He was breathing hard. His body was covered in bruises, but he was standing. "Why did you hold back?" demanded. "You could have killed them." Sheathed his sword. "Because killing them would prove them right about humans. They think we are savages, animals. If I killed them, I would just be the monster they expect." "So what? They attacked you. You had every right to defend yourself." "I did defend myself, but I want them to wake up knowing they lost. I want them to remember that 5 princes could not defeat one human boy with an old sword." He looked at with tired eyes. "That is a lesson they will never forget." The incident could not be hidden. Too many nobles were involved. The Academy Council was forced to act. But they did not punish they were royalty. Their families donated millions to the Academy. Instead, the council announced a special event. Would face Prince in the annual tournament of houses. A formal duel broadcast across the galaxy. The winner would bring honor to their species. The loser would bring shame. And under tournament rules, the fight could end in death. Smiled when he heard the news. Finally, he would destroy the human in front of the entire galaxy. Smiled too. He had been waiting for this chance. The tournament was 6 months away. He would be ready. The stadium was the largest had ever seen. 50,000 aliens filled the seats. Their voices made a sound like thunder. Above them, floating cameras recorded everything. The tournament was being broadcast to billions of people across the galaxy. Stood in the fighter's waiting room and looked at himself in the mirror. He wore simple clothes, black pants, a gray shirt, no armor, no protection, just his old sword on his back. Stood beside him. Are you scared? Yes. Good, fear keeps you alive. She touched his arm. I will be watching from the stands. If you need strength, think of me. Lady entered the room. It is time for your first match. The preliminary rounds were hard but not impossible. Faced fighters from across the galaxy. Each one was stronger than him. Each one had better weapons, but had spent 6 months preparing. He had studied every fighting style. He had practiced every technique. He knew their weaknesses better than they knew themselves. His first opponent was a duelist. The alien was fast, faster than had been. His blade moved like lightning, but had learned from his first fight. He did not try to match speed with speed. Instead, he predicted where they would move and placed his sword there first. The fight lasted 12 seconds. The fell with a cut across his chest. His second opponent was in. The floating alien tried to enter his mind and crush his will, but had taught him well. His thoughts were protected behind walls of memory and determination. They found nothing but cold steel and endless patience. Frustrated, they tried to attack with telekinetic power. He threw chairs and tables at. He tried to crush him with invisible force, but moved through the chaos like a ghost. He got close enough to press his blade against his throat. Yield, he said. They yielded. His third opponent was a heavy fighter. The alien was 3 meters tall and wide as a door. His armor was thick. His weapon was a massive hammer that could break stone. The crowd cheered for finally, someone would crush the human. But did not fight strength with strength. He moved around the giant alien, always staying just out of reach. Every time the hammer came down was somewhere else. Every time the lunged, stepped aside. The giant grew tired. His swings became slower. His breathing became heavy. Strug. 3 quick cuts, one to the back of each knee, one to the hand holding the hammer, that fell like a cut tree. With each victory, the crowd grew quieter. The announcers stopped making jokes about the human. The other fighters stopped laughing at his old sword. The semifinals matched against someone unexpected, a human. Commander walked into the arena. He was 50 years old, with gray hair and scars covering his face. He wore a powered exoskeleton that made him as strong as any. In his hands was a plasma rifle and a blade. I know you, said. And I know you, the colony boy, the survivor. His voice was tired and bitter. I was like you once. I believed humans could compete. I believed we could earn respect. What changed? Reality raised his weapons. I spent 30 years trying to prove myself. 30 years of fighting, bleeding, nearly dying. And what did I get? They still look at me like an animal. They still pay me half what they pay alien soldiers. They still refuse to let me eat in the same restaurants. So you gave up. I grew up, I accepted my place, I serve the now. I fight their wars, I do their dirty work. And in return they let me live. Pointed his rifle at. You should do the same, stop fighting, accept that humans are lesser. Life is easier when you stop hopping. The bell rang. Attacked with brutal speed. His exoskeleton made him faster than any human should be. His weapons were military-grade, designed to kill. He did not fight like a tournament duelist. He fought like a soldier. Barely dodged the first shot. The plasma bolt burned past his ear and melted a hole in the wall behind him. He rolled to the side as the blade cut through the air where his head had been. The fight was different from the others. New human movements. He knew human tricks. He had been fighting for 30 years and he had forgotten nothing. Was hit. A punch from the exoskeleton sent him flying. He crashed to the ground and tasted blood in his mouth. Walked toward him, slow and confident. Stay down, the old soldier said. It is easier. Stood up. Hit him again. Harder, flew across the arena and hit the wall, his ribs cracked, his vision went dark. Stay down, repeated. Stood up. Wise shouted, why do you keep getting up, what is the point? Spat blood on the ground. His body screamed with pain, but his eyes were clear and focused. Because giving up is worse than dying, he said. You stopped fighting for yourself. You stopped believing you mattered. That is why you lost, not because you are human, because you forgot what being human means. He raised his sword. We do not give up. We do not surrender. We keep fighting until we win or until our hearts stop beating. That is what makes us human. That is what makes us dangerous. Attacked again, but this time was ready. He moved under the swing and struck at the exoskeleton's power lines. Sparks flew. The machine shuddered. Another strike, another power line cut. The exoskeleton slowed, then stopped. Stood frozen in his dead armor. He could not move. He could not fight. He was trapped in his own machine. Pressed his blade against the old soldier's throat. Yield. Looked at him for a long moment. His eyes were strange. Something in them had changed. Yield, he whispered. As the medical team carried away, the old soldier grabbed arm. Maybe I was wrong, he said quietly. Maybe there is still hope for us. Nodded, then he turned to face the final match. Prince stood on the other side of the arena. He wore golden armor worth more than a starship. His sword was a masterwork with a plasma edge that could cut through anything. His forearms held 2 weapons and 2 shields. Behind him, 10,000 in the crowd screamed his name. You cannot defeat us, human, announced. His voice echoed across the stadium. Your species exists because we allow it. Today, I will remind the galaxy of your proper place. Drew his old steel sword. The blade was plain, simple, undecorated. But it had survived 400 years, just like his family, just like humanity. Then stop allowing it, said. The crowd fell silent. The final battle was about to begin. The bell rang. The final match began. Attacked immediately. His 4 arms moved like a storm, 2 swords slashing, 2 shields blocking. He was faster than any had faced before. His plasma blades left trails of burning light in the air. Retreated. The crowd cheered. This was what they expected, the human running, the winning, the natural order of the galaxy. Fight me, coward, shouted. Face your death with dignity. But kept retreating. He blocked when he had to. He dodged when he could. He never attacked. He never pressed forward. He just moved backward, always staying 1 step ahead of blades. To the crowd it looked like fear. It looked like weakness. They laughed and mocked him. But Lady watched with different eyes. She saw what was doing. He was learning. Every strike made, watched. Every footwork pattern memorized. Every small habit, every tiny weakness in his mind. He was not running, he was studying. This was the human way. Humans were not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most powerful, but humans could learn. Humans could adapt. Humans could watch and wait and understand. 10 minutes passed. Attacks continued to retreat. 20 minutes passed. His breathing grew heavier. His swings became slightly slower. They were built for explosive power, for short battles decided by strength. They were not built for long fights. 30 minutes passed, was sweating. His armor felt heavy. His arms were starting to burn with exhaustion. But was still moving, still blocking, still watching. What are you doing? Demanded. Stop running, fight. Stopped. For the first time in the match, he stood still. His old sword hung at his side. His eyes were calm and focused. I have been fighting, he said. You just could not see it. He attacked. His blade moved in patterns no one in the stadium had seen before. They were old patterns, ancient patterns, taken from Earth's forgotten warriors. Samurai strikes flowed into night techniques. Spartan footwork mixed with martial arts from a dozen human cultures. All of it adapted, changed, made new for this moment. Tried to block, but knew exactly how he would move. He had watched for 30 minutes. He knew every reaction before it happened. The old steel sword slipped past the first shield, cut across right arm. The prince screamed and dropped one of his blades. Another strike, another cut. His left knee was hit, he stumbled. A third strike, a fourth, moved like water flowing around desperate defenses. Every time the prince blocked was already somewhere else. Every time he attacked had already moved. The crowd fell silent. This was impossible. A human should not be able to fight like this. A human with an old sword should not be cutting through the finest armor like paper. But was not fighting like or an. He was fighting like a human. He was using everything he had learned, everything he had suffered, everything he had survived. Second sword fell from his hand. His shields dropped to the ground. He stood in the center of the arena, bleeding from 7 wounds, his beautiful armor ruined. His blade rested against his throat. Yield said. The stadium was completely silent. 50,000 aliens held their breath. Billions more watched through their screens. Never spat. Kill me or admit you cannot. Prove that you are the animal they say you are. Looked at the prince for a long moment. Then he pulled his sword back and sheathed it. I do not need to kill you, he said. I just needed everyone to see you lose. He turned away from and faced the stadium, faced the cameras, faced the entire galaxy. My name is, he said. His voice was calm, but it carried across the silent stadium. I am human. I come from a colony that no longer exists. I have no family. I have no money. I have no connections or power. All I have is an old sword and the will to keep standing. He looked around at the alien faces watching him. Humans are not weak. We are just young. We have not had thousands of years to develop technology or magic. We do not have natural strength or speed or psychic powers, but we have something else. He held up his old sword. This blade was forged on Earth 400 years ago. My great-great-grandmother carried it when she fled a burning colony. My grandfather held it when he fought pirates alone. My mother used it to protect our family when everyone else had given up. It has been passed down through generations of humans who refused to surrender. He sheathed the sword again. Every time you tried to break us, we adapted. Every time you said we could not, we found a way. Every time you pushed us down, we stood back up. That is what humans do. That is what we have always done. He walked toward the exit of the arena. We do not need to be the strongest or the fastest. We just need to refuse to give up, and we will never give up. No matter how many times we fall, no matter how many times you call us weak, we will keep standing. We will keep fighting. We will keep proving you wrong. He stopped at the edge of the arena and looked back one last time. Remember this day. Remember what happened here, because this is not the end. This is the beginning. He walked out of the stadium and into history. The tournament changed everything. Across the galaxy, humans began to hope again. They applied to academies that had rejected them for generations. They demanded jobs that had been to them. They stood up in places where they had always knelt. Was offered money, power, fame. Noble families wanted him to marry their daughters. Military leaders wanted him to command their armies. Politicians wanted him to be their symbol. He refused all of it. Instead, he returned to the ruins of his colony world. He built a small house where his family's home had once stood, and he opened a school. It was a simple place, just a training yard and a few rooms, but humans from across the galaxy came to learn. They came to find what had found, not strength or speed, but the will to keep going. Came with him. She taught the mental arts, helping young humans unlock the potential of their minds. Lady visited often, bringing promising students from across the stars. One evening, a young girl asked the question everyone asked. Will humans ever truly be equals? Smiled and handed her a practice sword. That depends on you, he said. Every generation has to prove it again. The galaxy will always underestimate us. They will always expect us to fail, but that is our greatest advantage. They never see us coming. The girl looked at the sword in her hands. Then she looked up at her teacher. Show me, she said. Show me how to stand back up. Took his position across from her. The old steel sword in his hand gleamed in the setting sun. First, he said, you have to fall down. You have to feel the ground hit your back. You have to taste dirt in your mouth. You have to know what it feels like to lose. The girl nodded. And then smiled. And then you get up, no matter what, no matter how much it hurts. You get up and you keep fighting. That is the only secret. That is what humans are made of. He raised his sword. Now show me what you are made of. The girl attacked. She was clumsy and slow, knocked her down easily. She got back up. He knocked her down again. She got back up. Again and again she fell. Again and again she rose. And somewhere in the stars, on 1,000 different worlds, other humans were doing the same thing, falling down, getting up, refusing to surrender. The galaxy had underestimated them for too long. They would never make that mistake again.